This is the first video in my model train layout project. In each video I will cover a specific aspect of the construction from which you can pick and choose, and hopefully find something inspiring or useful for your own project. I'm starting by lightly sealing the two MDF baseboard sections, CNC cut to my specifications, which I sourced online. Here is one I did earlier to show you the end result before the how-to guide. I'm using these really neat DCC Concepts alignment dowels. Come in two halves, a male and a female, and they just slot together really nice. You can buy the dowels with all the tools you'll need, or if you have them already, you'll need a 13 and 90mm spade bit and a bit for the pilot hole. Accuracy is key, so you'll need the appropriate measuring tools. Most people, it seems, add the dowels to an already assembled baseboard structure, but I'm very much making them part of the assembly itself. Returning to the one I did earlier, you'll see each joint consists of two of the connectors set in batons on each side of the board. Here are the two battens that I've selected from 21 by 25 strip wood. Hopefully that explains the notches I got the CNC guys to cut in the ends of the boards, which I'm measuring up now. Transferring the measurements to my batons, I'm not going to measure from the ends of the cut wood because I want to trim them to length once the dowels have been installed. After marking where I expect the ends of the wood to be, I'm just going to measure in 6 centimeters for where I want the centers of the dowels. I can then use the square to mark all the way around. Now I want to set my marking gauge to be exactly halfway across my piece of wood, so I can mark where the centre will be for drilling the holes for the dowels. I'm going to do the same marks all the way around the wood so that I make sure that when I do drill, the drill comes out at exactly the right angle. Now marking up the other end and the other position for the second dowel, marking all the way around as before. So I've got both of my battens marked with the centres where the dowels need to be drilled for. First up, I need to drill a hole through both pieces of wood, so I need to line up both pieces carefully on my marks and then clamp them carefully in place, making sure the faces of the pieces of wood are perfectly lined up before securely clamping to the bench. Protecting the kitchen table with a bit of scrap wood, we can start drilling, keeping our drill as vertical as possible so we get a nice straight hole. Keep going until you're confident you've gone all the way through, which you can check with the side of the drill. Drilling done, we can unclamp our batons and check the straightness of our holes. They're not perfect, but we can adjust as we go along. Reclamping one of the batons, we can start drilling with the 90mm spade bit into the inside face, just deep enough for the flange on the dowel. Same procedure for the second hole in the baton, checking the depth with the alignment dowel. Obviously it will be the other way around when it finally goes in. Now we can flip our baton, ready to drill the hole for the body of the alignment dowel, clamping it securely to the table. Using our pilot hole as a guide, we can now drill our 13mm hole for the body of the dowel. Continue drilling until you're through the baton, but obviously not through your spare wood and into the table below. Drilling finished, we can clear out some of the spare wood and fit our dowels, which go in pretty easily and form a nice flush surface with the wood itself. Married up to one I did earlier, we can see we've got a really even joint. With the pair of battens together, perfectly aligned with the dowels, I can now make good any errors in the original drilling, which is why I left cutting the ends of the batons until this stage. Here I'm remeasured and I'm marking up the new end of the batons, which I'm clamping into the workmate to then saw with a tenon saw. The end is a little bit untidy, but that's okay because I'm going to lose that when cutting the notches, for which I'm measuring up now. Back into the slightly wobbly workmate. I'm cutting just down to my mark, keeping the saw as vertical as possible. Clamping one batten at a time onto the top of the workmate, I can chisel away the waste wood. One layer at a time, each layer becoming progressively thinner until I get to my bottom line. As that approaches, I can use more taps of the mallet and adjust the angle. The final cut can be done quite gently with any finishing touches by hand pressure alone without using the mallet. Turning our attention from the battens to the baseboard itself, we need to trim the radius corners from the CNC cutting where the router tool couldn't quite get into the corners. I'm using a multi-tool for this, but you could use an ordinary saw or even a file. Inner corners trimmed, we can offer up our baton and make sure that it fits really nicely before going on to glue it. We can apply fairly generous amounts of wood glue onto the surfaces that are going to join the ends which we've cut earlier and along the inside edge of the baseboard itself. Glue applied, we can then put the baton in position and wipe away any excess glue. With both battens of the pair in place, I can now clamp them firmly to let them set. The glue is dried overnight. I'm just going to add some screws just to make sure it is completely secure. Once the pilot holes are drilled, I can then countersink for the heads of the screws, which can be screwed in accordingly, leaving a nice flat surface on the board itself. Finishing touches just to give it a sand and make sure everything is nice and smooth, including the edges of. Once smooth, the baton can be primed with a wood primer, including the holes for the dowels themselves, but not too much so that they don't fit anymore. Inspired by the beautiful finish of the DCC Concept alignment dowels, I wanted to avoid that rather homemade look for the baseboard, so I wanted to spend some time getting a good finish. This should also help protect the board itself when it is brought in and out from use. Over brush painted household paint, which I lightly sanded for a good finish, before the final coat of an acrylic aerosol spray paint. All done outdoors for safety. With all the painting finished, I can make a permanent fitting of the alignment dowels, which involves spreading some wood glue around the body of the dowel itself before firmly pushing home into the hole, ensuring the flange surface is completely level with the edge of the baton. Complete the job with dowel number 2 and repeat the job for each of the faces of the joins, ensuring each pair has the correct orientations. And that's it for the alignment dowels for now. In the next video I'm going to be looking at the track side of the baseboard and adding a way of keeping the baseboard joiners together.